Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Lanie Smith. Lanie is our host and guide to tuning into what really matters, tuning out all the noise, and tuning up our unique frequency and the embodied actions we need to feel our best and to reflect that in our 3D reality. Welcome to the show, Lanie. It's really great to have you here, and I know I read the introduction, but I'm going to just let you tell people what you're all about because you're a little bit unique in what you're sharing and how you're helping people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think that's been, what do they call that? A gift and a curse to have so many interests and actually be good at many and all of those things, and to try to niche has been, yeah, it's been a journey. And I eventually got to a place of like, pardon my French, but fuck the niche, because it just made me feel very caged. And as a creative spirit, while I had a niche at one time and it brought me a lot of success, it also started to feel stifling. And I could feel that that's where I was on the cusp of burnout. So I slowly began to branch out and out and out. And it was funny because I even had success in another kind of niche that I thought was less niche. And lo and behold, this is kind of, I think, the challenge of being an artist and a creative, that started to feel stifling and caging. And so I would consider myself a serial entrepreneur, and that I love to create things and see them to fruition. And there is, you probably heard that kind of like 7-year itch. At about 7 years, I will start to see like, yes, it's time to pivot and take all of this magic that was created and now pour it into something else. And we're never losing those parts, and those successes, but evolving it into something new. And so my current work, if you will, and body of work is a blend of all the things as a mentor for really 30 plus years, but as a paid professional, credentialed graduate of training and all of that for the last 15. And so I have a background as an art therapist. I'm a spiritual business mentor. I'm also an artist. And I love just infusing all of these things in order to support other helping professionals and entrepreneurs expand their creative edges with premium packaging, and I like to say a chill meal lifestyle as the cherry on top. It's not the main dish.
I like that. So you're not really all about the do this, now do this, now do this kind of cookie cutter coaching that's out there. You're more of a take you by the hand. Let's see what you're doing. Let's see what feels good.
Yeah, it's very, very individuated. I do some group programs, but they're almost always a hybrid because I want to give people that custom support. We can't really talk about creativity and then assign paint by numbers. So when it is that we're talking about that 6-step formula or 678 steps, whichever, the mentor that has created a framework that worked for them, and then they're selling it as it's also going to work for you. It's been my experience that that doesn't tend to work very well for artists, creatives, kind of black sheeps and neurodivergents that are attracted to my work. They really need something out of the box and custom so that they're following their intuitive knowing, the body-based wisdom, which is why when you introduced me, there is this focus on embodied wealth. So we're working a lot with the body while we're working with the creative edges.
And it's how would you frame like when you talk about embodied wealth, what does that actually mean in practical terms?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's foreign to so many people because we are so conditioned to cut off that body wisdom and, work from the mental frame, even, mindset work. People talk a lot about mindset work when we think about psychology and the psyche. That's all mental. And so it takes a concerted effort and devotion to uh, moving into the body where you can really feel these subtle energetic nuances, and you're moving from those pulses, what I call your creative eros. And that kind of, most of the time when people think of erotic, they're thinking of sexuality, but really I'm coming at it from sensuality, which sexuality is an aspect of. But when we're moving from our senses, even for example, people think of the five senses as being the main senses. Well, that's because that's what we've been taught. There are actually 50 plus senses. And when we take the opportunity to really learn this about ourselves, it's kind of, we have to go through this unlearning process of how everything we've been taught, and then relearn, how do I want to move in the world where my body is the GPS, my heart is the guide, and then my mind gets to support any logistics that are required. But we're not living from the how. We're really living from the what. What is alive? What is pulsing in right now? And you would be so surprised. Most people think that that's going to leave them broke. However, if there is an intention to create wealth, then that intention is built in. That sacred desire is going to be a part of moving from the body. And so my clients are doing, really out of the box things for their business and to market their business or make their business visible, but they're feeding that sensuality and they're moving from that sensuality so much that when the opportunity in the portal or window opens to, create that income, they're surpassing milestones that they've never touched before.
And there's so many creative ways to get yourself out there. It's like once you get beyond you have to do it in this way mentality, which I see so much of. It's just like, and you allow your heart to lead you. I can see where that would just like open the doors to conversations and collaborations and
Absolutely.
Clients, because
Yeah,
people
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when people think, like, I can't help but think of the Wizard of Oz because, the lion is so scared and so terrified. But when he really gets into his heart and makes contact with that courage to be visible and vulnerable, then his world starts changing, right? His 3D reality, as you introduced me, starts to shift to match that internal state. And so that's what I see time and time again is when, and in my own life too, it's like when I can stay over here and the safe and the predictable, and this is going to keep creating income for me. And, that's what happened in my expressive arts group therapy practice in my first business. It was like, I could stay here. This is very predictable. We know how to do this. And it actually wasn't true for my heart. My heart was like, no, actually, I want to gift all of these aspects that I've created, contracts in the community, private practice, group things. I want to gift these to the contractors that I have, and I want to move on to my next creative project. That was risky from a mental, how we've been trained. But the depth of knowing in my body was like, if I can create that, I can create something that much better. And so I literally went from a $250,000 business to a 7-figure business by following that creative expansion. Not from a strategy, not from a business plan, not from a 6-step, but just like intention is set, the rest, the doors will open as I move forward.
It's really about setting intention and being open to which doors are opening for you, and stepping through them and looking around and making decisions based on, how does this feel for me, and is this aligned with what I'm doing? And you can always go back out of the door and close it and try
You
a
can.
different door. It's
Everything
not
is
like,
figure outable.
yeah, yeah. But I think sometimes people just get stuck in they just don't know what they don't know. And the idea of jumping without a net is like, ah. And sometimes you
Right.
just have to jump, because you can't do everything all the time either.
Right.
Like if you, I totally get you're trapped in you almost, even though you're working for yourself, you can get trapped in a job.
Totally. Yeah.
I think that happened to Steve Jobs. He was fired from Apple, a company he
Yeah.
created,
Yeah. I remember.
because it became a job for him and they didn't want him there.
Mhm.
And when he came back as the creative Steve, which was what the company was birthed out of to begin with. So it, just to like reinforce what you're talking about in terms of stepping away from things that become en- encumbering. They just like,
Yeah. They
it,
lose their life. I think of it through the 5 stages of creativity. And one of the 4th stage is flexible commitment that allows you to get to flow. But
Mhm.
in all things, there's seasons and cycles. And so you will feel the energy start to flatten out when
Mhm.
something is no longer alive and it's no longer pulsing, and it needs either to evolve and pivot, or it may just be a full and complete ending. And I think that's also especially true for women who are cyclical beings.
Mhm.
And yet we've been operating in more of a masculine structure. The world is designed in a very masculine way, productivity focus versus creativity. And of course, these two things can come together when we're in sacred union and we're honoring the feminine and the body, allowing the masculine and the mental to support that. And so I'm super passionate about taking people deeper and deeper into their body. And this work is not for everybody. Not everybody is drawn to the mystery. Not everybody wants to let their creativity lead. And to be honest, more often than not, it's somebody who has already had success in the kind of mental model and hit that wall. That's like, this isn't doing it for me anymore. Even if they have all the clients and cash in the world, and they're just yawning at the fact of more clients and cash because it's predictable. And they want something that's going to bring more vitality, more arrows, and allow them to feel like they're living at the edge of their own consciousness.
So what you do for people is more on an upscale level. It's not really for the beginner coach out there. It's somebody who's already making, what would you say the threshold is? 10, 20, thirty
It's so
thousand a month.
interesting that you asked that. And I love that you ask it, because I went through my own journey, for lack of a better word, with this over the last couple of years, because I was helping clients do all of this inner work and simultaneously expand their income. And so they could be doing the depth work and still go from like 20K months to 200K months. Like that was totally possible. And then I got to a place in my own being where I was like, it actually doesn't matter for me. It doesn't matter how much money they are or are not making. It's actually more about their season of business, meaning that I can have a client that's not making, they may not even be making 6 figures anymore, but they could have been at one time. But something about that whole process just felt stifling and not 100% authentic to their creative spirit.
Hey all, I'm Jill Hart. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there was a way to have legal insurance, just like your health or auto insurance? Well, Legal Shield has leveled that playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters, from traffic tickets to real estate issues or even trust matters. Help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 435-764-0875 and use the code JillLegal or start your journey to legal protection today.
And so they have a business foundation. They didn't just open shop and hang a sign. They're not still learning how to be an entrepreneur. So they're an established entrepreneur, but they don't necessarily have to be making a certain amount for us to do this work, because you would be amazed how many people I've had come to me who they might not even be consistently making $2,500 a month because their income's kind of up and down. And yet, as we tap into this creative arrows, as we go deeper into the body wisdom, their income 5 times, 10 times, 20 times from that wisdom, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. So I think rather than looking at it from an income standpoint, you need somebody who's got the skills to create a foundation for promoting whatever they're promoting. And they're just like the basic things that you need if you're going to be in business.
Yeah. And I think that's a true statement in the sense that they actually know that they are here to serve and they want to be of service, and they have kind of a core message, if you will, even if it hasn't been refined. It's not completely starting from scratch.
Right. And it doesn't mean having a website. We were talking about this before we started
Oh, yeah.
recording. It's like you can have a business foundationally, like a store front on a lot of different platforms these days. It doesn't have to be a website. It doesn't even have to have, you don't have to do things the traditional way, because
Right.
things are changing so fast. And I think that again speaks to what you're talking about listening to your body and letting the creative part of it flow.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that it doesn't have to be done a traditional way, because I find that it's not all the time, but there are times when I have clients come to me and they don't actually see that they're trapped in that illusion of what I call the business matrix, which is, this is how it's done. This is the only way it's done. This is what you have to do for this to work. And that's actually not true. And it kind of only functions that way in your life if you believe that. But if you happen to be open enough to see, like, I actually don't need any of that unless I want that. And then that's the, cherry on top. And I've had many clients create income without, oh, we have a puppy, even without a website, or a business card or some of the traditional things. And it's just really tapping into their unique and custom quote unquote strategy, which for me is just sacred direction. To me, marketing is just creating connections and conversations. And if you know how to do that, you could do that with or without all of the business tools. and it can actually be really fun depending on if you're online or offline. It might look different. There was something you were saying though that I wanted to piggyback on. I think it was the traditional piece. Oh, right. The illusion that some people can still have is, being inside that matrix that I talked about, where in that instance, we really do have to kind of challenge it pretty hard. Because if they're still newer to business, and that's a relative term, like newer, I've had people come to me that they've been in business for 3 years, but they've been spinning their wheels in traditional programs that are teaching, this is how you write content, this is how you do this is how you do that. And because they were a creative and an artist, none of it worked for them, which is disheartening to a degree. But at the same time, it's a huge opportunity to see, wow, I was falling into the Kool-Aid that says, this is how it's done, and my way is going to work for you. And that is an incredible opportunity for discernment when we feel like the offness of something, even though it may sound good, if we were really in our body, we can feel the offness of like, that's actually not true for me. And that's a really important tool. And to your point, with things always changing, having these flexible skills, like the flexible commitment of the creativity stages I referenced, when we have that, we literally can create anything at any time, regardless of what collapses, regardless of what falls apart. We trust ourselves to live creatively, which is to create.
It's, I think, a mindset that it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that something is going to be forever. Okay, I'm in this spot and things aren't working, so I'm going to be in this spot forever, rather than I'm in this spot for the moment, but I have a choice in the next moment, things can be exponentially different. It doesn't have to be like the slow curve up. It can be a straight line, and it can be a hockey stick. I mean, that happens in some instances where you're really aligned and your message is like you're hitting exactly where your clients are needing help. Then the transactions are going to happen really fast. But it's again a matter of being able to feel into and using your intuition. I mean, it is one of our senses.
Yes, absolutely.
And if we pay attention to it, just like, if you touch a hot stove, you notice it's hot, you move your hand away. If you get these feelings like, you, whatever it is for you, for me, I do have gut feelings about things. I mean, it actually, physically, I can tell when there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And, just having boundaries, saying, no, that's not for me, or, oh yeah, this, I can see where this is going, and let that energy like propel you forward and help you to get visible. That's my phrase for the year.
Your 2025 word.
Yeah. Get
Yeah.
visible. I'll just make it one word.
Right. Get visible. I was trying to think. I had and I can't think of it right now, but yeah, to your point, I feel like in some ways, and this is why I call entrepreneurship a spiritual canvas, because it is such an opportunity for maturation and expansion when we're paying attention. I know many clients can identify with the child archetype, where when they first start business, they just want to be told what to do, how to do it, right? Because they want to hit the ground running. They want to find a way to make the cash quickly. And that's great. We're not making that stage of business or development wrong, but there will come a point where it feels less satisfying. And depending on, if it's your first business, or maybe if you grew up around entrepreneurs, it'll just be different for everybody. And this is why it's just so important to have that individuated and custom support, so that you can really see like, okay, what are your skills and natural strengths, and where are you already, doing well, so to speak. And then we can double down on that and start really shedding the things that are starting to create weight and contribute to boredom and burnout and all the things.
And do you help people grow? Because there are different stages in growing a business. Everybody starts out by themselves, and then you have to bring on a team at some point. And whether you're hiring out, and usually that's the first step, is you find contractors, but then you do need a team, and you need to do other things as you grow. Do you support people through that process, or
I do. And I also support people in discerning, do they really need that?
or want it?
Yeah, that's a better word, want it. Because I've gone through this journey myself, having had 2 successful businesses now in my third. Those 2 businesses had a big team. One was contractors of therapists and interns and that kind of thing. The other one was collaborators with virtual assistants and that kind of thing. And now it's like very streamlined, very simple, because that's my taste in this season of life. Where and it's funny, I was talking to my partner not that long ago about how there were entrepreneurs that he's come across that literally just said, I don't want to make more than, say, $500K a year. The reason why is because I love working alone. And if I am going to go beyond that, I am going to need to hire, support and team. And I don't want that. And so they make a really intentional, conscious choice to not scale, even though they could. And I think that that's where it's like really important for people to know themselves as the foundation for the success of their business.
I'm enjoying your dog.
What's he doing? I missed him. I was focused on you.
He just looked at the camera and smiled and then laid back down.
That's Toffee.
Yeah. What's his name?
Toffee.
Toffee.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful dog. I'm a dog person, sorry.
He's 1 year old,
just...
so it's kind of hard not to be drawn to puppy energy.
Yeah, for sure. He's actually pretty calm for a puppy.
He is.
So how do people work with you, and how can they get in touch with you? And I know that you have a activator that I'd love for you to share a little bit about also.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a, I guess you could call master class. That's a catchphrase. But it's more or less, I say, an activator more than a master class, because I'm not teaching you how to do things, but I'm teaching you the principles with which to look inward so that you can discover your how and your next steps and really everything that we've talked about. And that's usually, I think it's a $250 program, but I've recently just put it on special. So you can find that on my Instagram. And it's also inside my free community called the Blank Canvas Community. And I love it. There's so many programs and things that I've done that it's always kind of a trick to decide which one to focus on at any given time. But this one really intuitively nudged me as, okay, bring this back. It's only been like a year and a half or so since I did that. And it was so well received and helped so many people feel their own power and tap into their own creative arrows that I felt like, yes, I want to gift that again. And I have actually a couple of other goodies in my store. So if anybody goes to Instagram, they can kind of poke around and find a few different things. But that one is something that I highly recommend now while it's being gifted.
Awesome. And we will put those links in the show notes. And I'm going to say primarily on Instagram. And I know you're on Facebook a little bit, but mostly I think you're on Instagram.
Yeah, right now it varies over the years, but in this season I'm on Instagram a lot because I've been playing in my virtual studio, which is called Lanie Smith Art, and then my primary account is the Lanie Smith, and it's just fun right now because I can link those back and forth, and so yeah, I follow the fun. And then I'm also on Facebook because that's just where I started. I've been on Facebook for 2 decades, I think. Yeah.
It has been a marvelous conversation, Lanie.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
What's the one thing you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today?
Just that you have so much creative power and creative freedom to step out of the traditional kind of business matrix, marketing matrix. And it actually behooves you to step out of that if you're interested in your own creative expansion, which more often than not leads to financial expansion, at least in my world. I like to support people in that financial expansion as well. So I just really like to reinforce that there's a million ways to do business, and finding your way is one of the most satisfying experiences I can think of in this lifetime.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.